So if you're wondering what the highest DPS melee weapon is in Monster Hunter Rise, the answer is actually going to vary depending on what it is that you are after. So if you are just a casual player, it's going to be a different weapon than if you are a speedrunner trying to do a perfect min-max. And the reason for this is because of practicality. So if you are just looking for a weapon that's really easy to get the value, so that, like, even if you're not even that skilled or not that experienced with the game, you'll still get crazy DPS. If that is why you're here, then I'm going to say the #1 weapon is actually the hammer. Now, a lot of people who are super experts might freak out about that, but for casual players, the hammer is absolutely asinine damage. Not only because it does asinine amounts of damage, but because it's extremely easy to hit that damage in an actual fight, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. The other option is going to be the longsword. It's also got some good ease of use, but it takes a little bit more finesse to actually land the wire bug attack that you need for the damage for it. But those are your two big options. On this video, though, I'm going to be focusing mostly on the hammer, but we'll take a look at all of them real fast. And then another one that you may consider longer term for like speedrunning type settings would be the sword axe. I have seen videos of people using it. It really comes down to the ability where you grab onto the enemy and just beat the crap out of them, like latched onto them. And that helps get more DPS out because you can do damage then when an enemy is rotating or attacking or doing something where you normally wouldn't be able to hit them with a melee weapon. So there are pros and cons to each of the three. Those are the three main ones, though. But let's take a look at the hammer real fast. So the reason the hammer is such insane DPS for casual players is because it's extremely simple to use and still does good DPS and is very easy to hit a target with. So there's basically just three main things you're going to be doing with the hammer. So I'll sort of four depending how you look at it. So I don't know, it depends on your settings, your controls. I'm not sure what it is on mouse and keyboard. You're going to have to find your own controls, but for a controller, it is going to be the right trigger, or maybe R2 on a PS2 controller, PS whatever controller. And this will, if you hold it, it'll let you charge, and you can do this and just walk around charging like this. And the reason why that really matters is you can just get your attack charged while getting in position wherever you need to be, and then do an insane amount of damage depending on what you do. But there's another button that you need to press, which on the Xbox version controller is B, which for a PlayStation controller might be circle. So I need to let go of that. Might be circle on a PlayStation controller. Not sure though, but that should be the same area on the controller. So if I press B on an Xbox controller, it'll change stance. You want the one where it starts purple. And the reason that you want this is because of the differences in the third charge attack in the sequence for both of these. So they basically do a similar thing. If you stand still and let go of R, then it'll do a big bang. This one's a brutal big bang. And you see at the end it hits for 104 with just this crappy ass, just random bone weapon. Whatever, it's not even a good weapon. You can actually hit up to like almost 1,000, I think, with that. With like endgame gear and the right resistances and all that. But if you change stance, go to the other one, if you just stand still when you let go of it, it'll also do a big bang for a little bit less damage. Okay, so that's another reason they're just straight up less damage. But the big difference between these is if you're moving while you do it, the one that's not purple will do the spinny attack. That does terrible DPS. Absolutely terrible DPS. And you'll find yourself doing that all the time because you're actually trying to move while doing it. It's hard to just like let go and stance. It's not, I mean, whatever. But the main thing is the other one does more damage across the board with both attacks. But also, if you're moving with the purple one's final charge, it'll do a step smash, which will help you close the distance and hit and still do insane damage. That one's just better. It's just straight up better. So a lot of times in fights, you'll find yourself just charging, waiting for the right moment, coming in and doing a step smash. But that's not all there is to do with the hammer, okay? Also, if you're out of time, you can go for the second one to do a quick little upswing, which can make them get exhausted more easily. But you're mainly going to go for the heavy damage. The main thing is just damage with this. But so that's not your primary DPS. So that's just for like you're running around, trying not to get hit, and then just looking for an opening to hit them. But your main bread and butter DPS, which are also absurdly easy to hit, is you're going to charge it to full. And then you're going to use a wire bug attack. Now, with a controller, it's left trigger. I don't know what it is on PC. You'll have to figure it out how to do wire bug attacks. And then Y, which would be triangle on the PlayStation controller, I assume, is you're going to hold L and then you're going to press Y, and it'll wire bug attack at him. So basically, the reason that you do that is because, like, basically when you're going to do that, you want to just get your distance right. So, like, say he's actually moving. I'll show you this in a real fight in just a moment. But when you're just moving like this, you just want to get the right distance, and then go for the Silkbind spinning bludgeon, and then you can come in on him and hit multiple attacks, and then slam down on him for big damage, and then be in position to hit him more or whatever. It's just a great way to close the gap when the enemy's moving around a lot. So it's like super easy to get your DPS out when the enemy is moving. So like if he just suddenly jumps over here, you can fly over to him and then smack him, and now you're in position again to beat on him again. So that's what's good about that one. But that's not your bread and butter DPS with this thing. That's just your consistent damage when he's constantly moving around and it only uses one wire bug. And it keeps you in position to keep beating on him. We'll get to the bread and butter DPS after beating on him, okay? So there's also one combo. That's all you do for DPS if the enemy is standing still. And that is B, which is also, I assume, circle on a PlayStation controller. I don't know what it is on mouse and keyboard. You gotta figure it out, I guess. So with the hammer, from everything that I've seen, everything I've talked to other people who use hammer, the main DPS is you try to get to their weak point and you just spam B. And it'll do Big Bang 1, Big Bang 2, Big Bang 3, Big Bang Finisher. And it's just asinine amounts of DPS if you can actually get it. Now, it's not always practical to get that because enemies are moving around a lot. But whenever an enemy is exhausted and you don't have any wire bug moves, you're just going to spam B, and the damage is absolutely ridiculous. Simple, easy to use. This is why for casual players, the hammer is so good DPS. And not only that, but it causes stun and exhaust really easily with that. It's just crazy good DPS without having to think or do anything. It's so simple. But that's not actually your bread and butter DPS. Your bread and butter is you're going to charge this, and you can only do this when you get an opening. So if they're exhausted or they just finished an attack and you think they're going to stand still, you do your wire bug attack, but instead you press B, which would be circle on a PlayStation controller, and you'll go up into the air for Impact Trader, which finishes with double slam that does ridiculous damage. I've seen videos of people hitting over 1,000 damage with each of those, so you'll go up, come down, and hit for 2,000 plus damage on an enemy. It's absolutely ridiculous DPS if you have wire bug. So like if you get an enemy exhausted, so like if you're fighting with the hammer and you come in for this type of move over and over again, and then they stand still and you slam them and you just eventually get them exhausted, then I have a side smash on that. Okay, I'm somehow doing charge side blow. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So you're just going to keep slamming them until they're exhausted or whatever. And then once they're exhausted, you're going to really quick charge up a move, use your other wire bug attack for an Impact Trader. And then if they're still exhausted, you're going to just start beating on them. Now, we're also not done. If you want to get max DPS with the hammer, there's one more thing you have to do, or else the hammer just blows. If you've noticed, these moves have insane recovery time. Like, I can't move for ages. So let's take a look at my bread and butter move here. As my friend called it, the bing bong attack is what I like calling it. The bing bong, all right? We hit with the bing bong. You need to animation cancel as soon as it will let you. You need to do a dodge roll as soon as it will let you. Otherwise, you're stuck in a recovery animation for like 5 seconds. So basically, to get your main DPS, is you're going to charge your attack, and you're going to go for the bing bong. Okay, and then as soon as it's done, you're going to be spamming dodge roll. As soon as it lets you go, dodge roll out, and then start your big bangs. Or your bonks, as I like to call them. And even once that's done, you're going to do the same. You spam dodge roll, and then repeat. And doing this will increase your DPS by like 30% or something on average. Significantly more DPS if you dodge roll cancel with the hammer, because again, hammer has absurdly bad recovery times. The other go-to weapon people like to use for melee DPS is the longsword. And there's a few reasons for this. One is it's long, so you can easily make contact with your abilities. And then there's another thing, you can do some really good DPS if you do it right. So at the top, you see the katana, it fills. Once it fills, you hit right trigger, whatever that is, for spirit slashes. And if the bar is full, you'll be able to finish with a spirit round slash, which then makes that katana glow white. Once it's glowing white, you get your weapon back out, and you're going to wire bug at the enemy and press right trigger, and it'll do Spirit Helm Breaker, which does damage like that. And the Spirit Helm Breaker does an absurd amount of damage. kind of like the Bing Bong, as I called it, with the Warhammer. But I personally prefer the hammer for any casual player, especially because you don't have to min-max your combos in order to do it. You just go for your damage. It's easy. It's consistent, all that. With this one, I mean, it is consistent with this one too, but you do have to make sure that you get in, you get normal attacks on him, and then you get a roundhouse, which once you get the roundhouse, then you can go for the soaring kick and then spirit helm breaker. Now, the other thing with this is you do have to, like, no matter what, actually touch the enemy in order to do that. So you have to, wrong button. You have to touch them to initiate it. And you have to have that gauge filled or else it'll do a plunging thrust, which is terrible. So it's pretty easy to land it. You can even just be right on their face and land it. So that's why it's consistent. It's pretty easy to land that one. But if the enemy has too much distance and you come short, you won't hit it. Whereas the hammer, you'll hit it when you come short. So there are pros and cons to both. But again, I think the hammer, for simplicity reasons, is definitely a casual player's best friend for damage. Also, the stun potential makes it really, really good for just consistent damage, like an actual practicality. And then there's like the sword axe, which I'm not really going to go over, but there's the ability that's the only real advantage to it versus any other weapon is just the ability to latch onto an enemy when it's moving around, allows you to get DPS during the downtime. So that's another one to consider. But again, I'm going to focus on the hammer for the rest of this because it's just such consistent DPS with such ease of use that vast majority of players who just want to get good DPS and beat the game pretty consistently, get S ranks and stuff in arenas, it should be a pretty simple thing to do. So let me show you what it looks like in an actual fight with a real boss. So another advantage to the hammer is when you do the wire bug attack with the hammer, you can actually go over an enemy's attack and land behind them and still hit them, which is also really nice. And for shorter enemies, it's a little easier to connect. Where an enemy like this, the longsword might have some serious trouble connecting because of how short the enemy is. So what you can do is you can get distance, and then once he just goes ahead and does something, you can come in for a slam, and it's pretty easy. Like it's really easy to connect the damage. It's all about getting the right distance. And you get the right distance, you can do it. And if he's on downtime, you can go for the Bing Bong. And if you hit it, it just does absolutely crazy amounts of damage. So then how he's on downtime, so I come in for the hit, and just smack him up, and it's just super, super easy, consistent damage. And if you don't have anything, I'd like to whiff it, you can always just let go and just go for a normal slam. I should have dodged that, lazy me. I don't know. You just keep on going for this, basically, until you get close. It's really long range, so it's really forgiving. He's on the ground now, so I'm going to go for the Bing Bong, as I like to call it. And then I double stun him from the hammer. And now what you can do is you just spam B or circle, and you just beat his head in. And it's super easy. You don't have to like think. You just spam B. I'm supposed to dodge that to cancel. Gotta remember to animation cancel too. And you see consistently crazy damage without almost any work at all if they stand still. And again, if they don't stand still, then you're going to come in with the other one. So like you can see, basically get the point here. It's just really easy, consistent damage, very casual, player friendly. I don't know, it's super ease of use. You don't have to deal with any complex, like I have to charge something and oh no, I didn't have the charger. Any of that stuff, while still maintaining ridiculous DPS as long as you space everything correctly. And yeah, just get the right spacing. It's really about getting the right distance on him so you don't get hit by his attacks. As soon as his attack's over, you go in for this one. And then if he's ever, you know, exhausted or stunned, you can just go for the bonks, as I like to call them, or you go for your wire bug one, which is the we'll kill this thing with it maybe, which is the Bing Bong. Yep. So it's easy DPS for any casual player if you ever want to. It's my recommendation. Go into it just. You know, you can do other weapons, and you can definitely succeed with any weapon, but this weapon is just super simple. Anyone can excel with this one and get crazy DPS without a whole lot of effort or practice.